We are now joined by Spokesperson and Media Relations Manager at City Power, Mr. Isaac Mangena. Mr. Mangena, a pleasure having you on the show. Thanks for joining us, sir.
Good evening, Flo, and good evening to the viewers at home.
All right, Isaac, let's start by talking about the cut-off operation that you embarked on. And what was the trend in terms of what was picked up, when we're talking about non-payment, not specifically relating to Rand Hospital, but just in general?
Look, the trend that we're picking is that the lack of payment or non-payment of services by customers is no longer about the people that are poor. You find that actually the people that are owing are actually the people that can afford to basically pay for services. And I'm talking about individual customers, households. But also we find that increasingly businesses are basically defaulting on their accounts. Others have actually bypassed our meters and also basically illegally connected on electricity. But the worrying one is when government institutions are actually found in the mix to be basically owing electricity or even other municipal services. And we've seen a lot of those. It's not the first time that we are cutting off essential services like hospitals. We have done that with police stations and also even your services like telecom. Mm-hmm. And I think that is where the worrying part is, because these are the institutions that know the value of revenue collection. They know that you cannot, as a government entity, stay afloat without this revenue that we're looking for.
Yeah, I want to talk about the fact that, courts have basically exempted, essential service institutions such as hospitals from load shedding, and one would think it a step further when we're talking about cutting off. So, how does City Power, balance that? The fact that the courts are saying, listen, they should be exempted, and at the same time you're saying, listen, if you're not paying, we're not cutting you, we're going to cut you off.
In fact, the fact that they have been exempted from load shedding should be the encouraging aspect of it for them to basically pay for that electricity. It's unlike other customers that are basically not exempted from load shedding. So they still pay for their services, but they are not basically exempted. They don't get electricity as much as the essential services. So, but it's also based on the regulations. The essential services, by their nature, they know that they are supposed to basically ensure that they are able to provide the service that they are supposed to provide. Hospitals are not exempted from being disconnected. We are basically just doing this because of the situations that they find themselves in with load shedding, and also because when they are off, we are basically losing revenue as City Power. So that's why most of the essential services, we basically make sure that they are not disconnected from electricity, and that's why I'm saying that should really be the motivating fact that should push them to basically ensure that they've got their clean bill with City Power and other municipal services, so that they can continue to provide the services that they are supposed to provide. Otherwise, they end up not being able to do what they're supposed to do, or they have to rely on generators where diesels are basically shooting, the prices of diesels are shooting above the roof. So I think that is basically the reason why we keep on knocking on their doors, because we ensure that they've got uninterrupted supply of electricity.
But there is an understanding then from City Power that this could, be tantamount to or become a sort of human rights violation. I mean, when it comes to your lack of revenue and people not paying, balanced out with, the right to life and people's right to be, connected to machines that are working and so forth, one would imagine that City Power does understand the importance of the fact that, these hospitals do have to keep running, because we are essentially talking about life and death situation, aren't we?
Look, City Power is not in a business of disconnecting people. City Power is not in a business of disrupting services, essential services. We're in the business of providing electricity. We buy this electricity from Eskom, close to 20 billion rands annually that we pay Eskom for this electricity. And it means that we also need to make sure that we stay afloat. We are 10 billion under currently as I'm talking to you. We have suffered a great deal of losses in terms of revenue due to the COVID, due to the load shedding that we're currently fighting ourselves, 3.6 million on a daily basis when there is load shedding, especially the higher stages of load shedding. We are losing material on a daily basis. Cables are getting lost. Mini substations are blowing up. Staff, currently we are on stage 6. It means that we need to bring all the resources, human resources and everything from leave and pay for overtime. So we are also basically, I can say, the rights of our own operations are suffering basically because of the people that are not paying for electricity. But you'll remember that health services, just like any other essential services, they also make some level of profit. Some of them are actually even getting some grants from government and so forth. So the expectation is that when they get that money, they need to pass it to other service providers, water, electricity, revenue, the medicines that they are using. I don't think they will basically sit back and say, we are not going to pay for these medicines because of, or just decide not to pay for medicines. And when those medicines are not provided, and then we start talking about human rights. I think we need to balance this thing, because even ourselves, otherwise tomorrow we might actually close shop because of the amount of money, as I mentioned, 10 billion rand under. It's not a child's play, and we really need, especially government institutions, private individuals, private companies, yes, it's understandable, but government institutions should know exactly the pain of not having services actually being paid for.
And how do you respond to the Provincial Health Department saying that, in fact, this notice that was made was premature because there were already negotiations underway, and that the hospital, if we're obviously going back to talking about South Rand Hospital, that they demonstrated this willingness to pay in the first place, so you didn't have to do, to make that sort of threat?
Flo, when we do the cutoffs as a last resort, and that's why sometimes you find the money is actually sitting at millions. We take time. We've got the patience of a fisherman. We don't just wake up every morning and just decide we want to cut people. We sit down, we send letters, we send pre-termination notices, we call the account managers to say your account is basically starting to go into the red side. So you need to basically start making sure that it's paid for. So when they don't and ignore some of these messages and even calls that we send to them, even pre-termination notices, by law, we need to basically give you a first notice. It's just like any other credit. If you don't pay a furniture store, they will send you a letter, you ignore it, they send you another one, and then they start basically taking legal actions against you. So that's basically what we do. We are also bound by Credit Management Act and systems that are there in the country. So we basically take time to especially essential services. We don't move quick to cut off essential services. We talk to them, government to government, and hoping that they will basically understand. And when they say it's premature or they were busy negotiating, Flo, we were here on this station a few weeks ago, last month and a few months ago, where we were talking about hospitals, Charlotte Macleck's and so forth, that are basically owing for services in the municipality. So I think there is that problem that we're facing with the government departments when it comes to level of payment of the services. And I think while we also avail ourselves to basically talk to them about this account, it seems like they forget some of the others. I mean, we dealt with Charlotte Macleck, with Helen Josephs, that was last month, but now you've got South Rand. Tomorrow we don't know what else or which other hospital basically is serving. So I think internally on their side, or maybe even on our side, there could be a problem in terms of how we manage this account. But I think there is some level, something that needs to be done to ensure that we shouldn't even be here on TV battling it out between a government institution and another government institution. This is something that we should basically be able to talk about it, and the obligations that are pinned on each one of us are basically that we are expected to provide electricity, we do that, but we're also expecting that when we provide electricity, someone should pay for that electricity.
All right, Mr. Mangena, many thanks to you. That is, of course, the spokesperson of City Power. He's the Media Relations Manager, City Power, Isaac Mangena.